Hello everyone, my name is Dr. Kunal Patel. Right. So in my previous video, we have seen that how you can create the array and how you can access the elements of an array. Okay. Right. After that, we have also seen how you can find the size of matrix, how you can describe the matrix. Okay, and how you can reshape. Right. Today we are going to see very important basic functions which are available in the NumPy, right? So first of all, we are going to start with the arange function, right? So what is the use of arange function? So arange function return evenly spaced value within a given interval, right? So here you can see the syntax of arange function that start and end step, right? So if I write arrange and then if I press shift tab, then you can see it will show the description over here, right? So here is the start, here is the stop, and here is the step, right? It also provides the data type as a parameter. Okay, right? So if you see, so here there is a description for this particular syntax, right? So here start is an optional function. Okay, right? And here you can also see the examples of it, right? So let's start with the example how this arange function works. So as you need to pass the starting value and you have to provide the ending value. Okay, and if you run this, then you can see it will return evenly spaced values within a given interval. So it contains 1, but it does not contains 20. Okay, right? So 1 to 19 values it provides. So this you need to remember. Okay, right? Suppose say if I'm going to only provide the range of you can say 5 or you can say 10. Okay, right? And if I execute, then you can see it starts with the 0 and up to 9. So total 10 values it is going to provide. Okay, right? Then again, if I take, if I want to print the numbers with the steps, so after 2, what will be the value, right? So you can see it provides the values 1, 3, 5, 7 up to 19. Okay. Again, if I'm going to change the type, right? Okay, arrange. Okay. Then if I'm just only taking the 10 and type, the type is equals to float, suppose if I'm taking, right? So you can also change the type of that particular numbers, right? So 0, 0.0, 1.0, 2.0. Likewise, you can find the numbers. Okay. So this way, the arrange function is working. Okay. Now it is very simple. Now let's go for another function that is a Lin Space function. It is very similar to arrange function, but there is a one difference. Okay, so let's see, it returns evenly spaced numbers over a specified intervals, right? But here if you look at the syntax of Lin Space, right, it is also known as the linear space, start and the third parameter is number is equals to, right? So here this is the default, 50 is the default value, right? So here instead of providing the stats, if you want to provide how many numbers you want between the given interval. So 50 numbers I want between the given interval. So that you can provide, right? And another two parameters we have, that is the endpoint and RET step. Okay, return step, you can also say, right? So these two particular parameters are used, okay? So to find, so let's first of all, endpoint is used if you want to include the last number or not, right? So as we saw that in arrange function, the last number is not included, right? So if you want to include that number over here in a Lin space, So you can do that. And return step function, return step parameter is used to check the difference between each number, right? So let's see one by one this with the example. So I'm just creating the Lin space, okay? And after that, if you want to describe this function, then just hold shift and press tab and maximize. So you will get the different parameters over here and the documentation of it, right? So let's start with the example Lin space, right? So here I'm just providing the numbers between 1 to 100, okay? And or you can say 1 to 50, and how many numbers I want. So number is equals to 10, okay? 10 numbers I want between 1 to 50, okay? So you can see that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So it includes the 1 and 50 both, and total 10 numbers it prints. Suppose if I change it to 5, then you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, including 1 and 50. Okay, right. So let's take another example. Here, I'm just, you can say, passing the numbers, or you can say interval Lin space. Okay, 1, 2, you can say, let's talk about 50 again, okay, and then number is equals to say 10, right? And here I'm also providing the endpoint is equals to false, okay, right? So here let's see what happens. Okay, wonderful, right? So if I don't want to include the last number, I don't want 50 over here, so you can see I need to provide the endpoint parameter over here. So it includes the 1, but it does not include 50, right? And how many numbers I want? I want 10 numbers, okay, right? By default, the value of endpoint is equals to true, right? So this way you can uh, change that if you want to include the last number or not, that you can put it, right? Now, let's take another example. Lin space, right? Here I'm going to put 1 comma again the 50, right? Numbers is equals to 5, okay? And I want the return step, okay? I want the return step to be true, okay? Right. So now here what I want 5 numbers between 1 to 50, that includes 1 and 50 both, but I want to find the number of difference between each value, right? So if I execute this code, so you can see 1, 13.25, 20.5. So the difference between these two values is 12.25, 12.25. So return step value will return 12.25 over here. Are we clear, right? Now, if I want to change the data type of these, then again I just go for how many numbers I want, then 5 numbers I want, and d type is equals to the float. D type is equals to float, okay? And if I execute, then you can see by default it is a float. Now I want the integer, right? So 1, 13, 25, 37, 50, okay, right? So this way you can also change the particular data type, right? And the last one is very important. If I'm not providing anything, like if I'm just providing starting and ending, right? So how many values it will print? So you can see 50 values it will print. So by default number is equals to 50, as I told you here in the syntax, right? So 50 value it will print between 1 to 50, okay? So this way Lin Space function is very useful, okay, right? Now let's move ahead to another important function, that is zeros function and ones function, right? So those who have worked with the MATLAB, right, and those who have worked with the different kind of classifiers and all that stuff, right? So in that, these zeros and one functions are very useful, very important, right? So let's check out here how these functions are useful in a NumPy. So when I use zeros function, then it returns a new array of given shape and type that is filled with the zeros, all zeros, right? So here is the syntax that np dot zeros, right? Shape, data type, and the order. Order is the optional, right? Either you can go for the C or F. Okay, C is for row and row wise, and F is for the column wise if you want to print, right? So now here, let's go with the zeros, right? And if I want to create a one dimension array, then I just want to go for 5. And if I execute, then you can see it creates the one dimension array with the 5 values. By default, the values are in a float. Okay. Now, suppose say for example, np dot zeros. Okay. Now, if I want to change the type to d type is equals to true, or d type is equals to integer, right? And if I execute, then you can see it is converted into the integer values. Okay. Now suppose if I want to create the 2 dimension zeros array, right? I want to fill all the values with the zeros, so 3 by 3 matrix. Okay. Then okay, the data type not understood. Okay. So you need to remember, you can either put the tuple or you can either put the list to print it, right? So in between, you just go for the tuple or the same value if I take and I just go for the list syntax, right? And if I execute, then you can see all the numbers, all the fields are with the zeros, right? So this is very useful, zeros. Similarly, zeros, there is another function that is known as the ones. It returns the array given shape and type with the fill with the ones, right? So instead of zeros, the all the things are filled with the ones, right? So suppose say empty dot, you can say ones, okay, and then just 5, and if I execute, then you can see now suppose np dot ones, and into bracket I'm going to print 2 dimension array, right? Then it prints once, all the values will be 1. Okay, right? So these are very similar. Now to similar that, another function is that we have empty function. So difference here is empty function returns the values which are not initialized, right? So here we are not going to initialize with the zeros and ones, so random values will be there. Okay, so how you can check that? So empty dot, you can say empty, okay, and then suppose say if I press 5, right, then if you execute, then you can see np dot empty, right, and into bracket I just put 3 comma 3, okay, and if I execute, then you can see it's filled with the 1. So here the values are different according to just d type is equals to integer, right? If I want all the integer values, okay. So you can see there are not initialized values over here. Then again, if I go for the integers again over here, then d type is equals to int, and if I execute, then you can see these are the non-initialized values over here it provides. Okay, right? So this is the use of empty function, and after that, I function is there. Okay, so what is the use of I function, right? So it returns the array filled with zeros except in the kth diagonal whose values are equal to 1. So here we have diagonal value 1. Okay, right? We can also choose which column to fill with the ones. Okay, so here in the syntax, if you see, n is the number of rows, m is the number of columns, it is optional, right? K is equals to some values you can define over here, data type and the order, right? So let's try to understand how the I values are going to be displayed. So if I put np.I, right, and if I take the phi and if I execute, then you can see phi number of rows are going to be created, right? If I go for 4, then 4 number of rows are going to be created, and with the diagonal value 1, with the diagonal value 1, if you not specified anything, right? Suppose if I go for np.I into bracket 3 comma 3, or just directly you can provide here the value 3 comma 3, right? And if you execute, then diagonal value of 111, and it is a 3 cross 3 matrix. Okay, now suppose if I'm changing the k value, so if I go for the I value, right, my matrix is of 4 and k is equals to -1, and if I execute, so you can see this is our diagonal. All the values up of the diagonal is positive and all the values below are negative, right? So this is -1, -2 column, -3. Similarly, +1, +2, +3. Okay, right? So here all the lower values below the diagonal -1 is 111. Suppose say if I want this 111, then I just need to check. I'm just copy and paste it over here, and instead of 1 I put 2, so you can see this is 111, right? Similarly, for positive values, if I want 111 above the diagonal, then you can see this is 1 1 and 1. Again 1 I want upper, then 2, then you can see, okay, 1 and 1. So this way you can also choose which column values you want. Okay, right? And similarly, you can also put the particular, you can say, data type over here. By default is it is a float, so I want integers, so you can see 1111, right? So according to your requirement, you can just change the values, you can change the columns, diagonals and all that, right? And at last, the identity function. So it identity array is a square array with ones in a main diagonal. Okay, right? So it is very easy. Suppose if I write identity, okay, suppose say 4, and if I execute, all the diagonal values are going to be 1, right? And if I want to change the particular, you can say, type is equal to integer, then you can see also integer value, right? So I hope this video is very useful to you. These are the very basic functions and frequently used functions in a NumPy, right? Which is very useful. That's right. Okay. So let's stop here. In my next video, we'll see another useful function. So stay tuned and please subscribe to my channel for updated videos.